Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine reaching into an old jar, pulling out a coin that looks completely ordinary, and discovering that collectors around the world would fight to own it. Most people spend coins like this every single day without realizing they could be holding the key to a fortune that could buy a mansion, a dream car, or complete financial freedom. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of rare Lincoln pennies. And I'm telling you right now, you need to check every single penny that passes through your hands because what I'm about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind. We're starting with the 1992 D Lincoln penny, a coin so deceptive in its ordinary appearance that thousands of people have probably spent it without a second thought, never knowing they just gave away a potential $13 million treasure. Yes, you heard that right. $13 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the street. This isn't some fantasy or exaggeration. This is real money that real collectors have paid for the right specimen of this incredible coin. The 1992 D Lincoln penny was minted in Denver, and while millions upon millions of these pennies were produced that year, there's something absolutely extraordinary hiding among them. Something so rare and so valuable that it has become the holy grail for serious numismatists and casual treasure hunters alike. The Denver Mint produced these pennies with the distinctive D Mint mark, and on the surface, they look like any other penny from that era. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, that familiar copper color that we've all grown up with. But here's where things get absolutely incredible. Here's where your heart should start racing if you have any 1992 D pennies sitting around. The most valuable specimens of the 1992 D Lincoln penny are the ones struck on wrong planchets. And I'm talking about pennies that were accidentally struck on dime planchets, quarter planchets, or even foreign coin planchets. Imagine the chaos in the mint that day. Imagine the machinery running at full speed, thousands of coins being produced every minute, and somehow, someway, a blank planchet that was never meant to be there slips into the penny press. The dies come down with tremendous force. Lincoln's image is stamped onto metal that was never intended to carry it. And just like that, a mistake worth millions is born. These wrong planchet errors are spectacularly rare because they require a perfect storm of circumstances. The wrong blank has to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right moment. It has to survive the striking process without being detected, and then it has to make it past quality control inspectors who are specifically trained to catch these kinds of mistakes. But every so often, one slips through, one makes it into circulation, one ends up in someone's pocket change, and that's when the magic happens. Now, before we go any deeper into this absolutely mind-blowing coin, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because the next coin I'm going to tell you about is even more valuable, even more rare, and the story behind it is going to leave you speechless. We're talking about a penny that has sold for millions more than this one. A coin so extraordinary that when it surfaces at auction, collectors from around the world drop everything to bid on it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to that absolute monster in just a few minutes, so don't you dare click away. The 1992 D penny struck on a dime planchet is particularly fascinating because dime planchets are smaller than penny planchets, which creates a distinctive appearance. You get a coin that has the penny's design, but the dime's size and weight, and the edge detail is completely different. Collectors lose their minds over these because they're so visually striking, so obviously wrong, and yet so perfectly preserved as artifacts of mint era history. When these coins show up at major auctions, the bidding wars are absolutely legendary. I'm talking about grown adults with decades of collecting experience getting into heated battles, phone lines lighting up from international buyers, auction houses extending bidding periods because the prices keep climbing higher and higher. The current record for a 1992 D Lincoln penny error stands at an absolutely staggering $13 million. And that's not a typo. That's not an exaggeration. That's the cold, hard truth of what the absolute finest known specimen has achieved. But here's what makes this even more exciting. There are almost certainly more of these coins out there, hiding in old collections, sitting in forgotten piggy banks, mixed in with rolls of pennies at your local bank, waiting to be discovered. Every single day, people are going through their change, and every single day, someone could be holding one of these coins without knowing it. The key things to look for are unusual weight, unusual size, and unusual coloring. If you have a 1992 D penny that feels different, looks different, or just seems off in any way, you need to get it examined by a professional immediately because you might be sitting on a fortune. The composition errors are another category that drives values through the roof. We're talking about 1992 D pennies that were struck on planchets meant for foreign coins, or on experimental planchets that were never supposed to leave the mint facility. Some of these coins have shown up struck on Canadian planchets, on Bahamas planchets, on planchets for mints around the world, and each one tells a unique story of how global coin production facilities sometimes share equipment, how mistakes can happen when different countries' blanks get mixed together, how one moment of confusion can create a numismatic treasure that will be cherished for generations. Think about the journey these coins have taken. They start as a mistake, an accident that probably should have been caught and destroyed, but instead they slip through. They get mixed in with normal coins. They're handed out as change at grocery stores and gas stations. They pass through hundreds or even thousands of hands, and all along the way, nobody notices, nobody realizes they're holding something extraordinary. Then one day, maybe decades later, someone who knows what to look for spots it, recognizes it for what it is, and suddenly that forgotten penny becomes the center of attention, authenticated by experts, graded by professional services, and ultimately sold to a collector who will treasure it forever. The grading of these coins is absolutely crucial. A 1992 D error penny in poor condition might be worth thousands, but that exact same error in pristine, uncirculated condition could be worth millions. We're talking about the difference between a coin that's been heavily circulated, showing wear and damage, versus a coin that looks like it just left the mint yesterday, with full luster, sharp details, and zero imperfections. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale, and when these 1992 D errors grade at MS 65 or higher, that's when the values absolutely explode into the stratosphere. I've seen auction results where two seemingly identical error coins sold for wildly different prices simply because one graded 2 points higher than the other. We're talking about a difference of millions of dollars based on subtle variations that only experts can detect. The history of Lincoln pennies in general adds another layer of fascination to this story. These coins have been produced since 1909, honoring one of America's greatest presidents, and over the decades, they've become more than just currency. They've become cultural icons, pieces of American history that connect us to our past. The 1992 D specifically comes from an era when the mint was producing billions of pennies annually, when automation was at an all-time high. And yet, even with all that modern technology, errors still occurred, mistakes still slipped through, and valuable rarities were still being created. Every major coin show, every significant auction, you'll find collectors huddled together, sharing stories about the ones that got away, about the 1992 D penny they saw once but couldn't afford, about the friend of a friend who supposedly found one in their change but never got it authenticated. These stories fuel the passion, keep the hunt alive, and remind us that numismatics isn't just about money. It's about history. It's about discovery. It's about the thrill of finding something rare and special in a world where everything seems mass-produced and ordinary. So here's what you need to do right now. Go through your pennies, every single one of them. Check the dates. Check the mint marks. Look for anything unusual, anything that seems even slightly different. Get yourself a jeweler's loupe or a magnifying glass. Examine the details closely. Compare your coins to pictures online. And if you find a 1992 D that raises any questions in your mind, get it to a professional for authentication. The worst-case scenario is you spend a few dollars getting a common penny examined. The best-case scenario is you just discovered a $13 million treasure that was hiding in plain sight this entire time. And remember what I said earlier. This coin, as valuable as it is, as extraordinary as its story may be, is just the beginning, because what I'm about to tell you next is going to make this look small in comparison. We're about to explore a penny that's even older, even rarer, and worth millions more than what we just discussed. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now. Next, 1983 D Lincoln Penny. Think twice before you spend your next penny because it could be this one, the 1983 D Lincoln Penny that has absolutely shattered every record and redefined what collectors thought was possible in the world of numismatics. We're talking about a coin so valuable, so astronomically priced, that when I tell you the number, you might need to sit down. This penny has reached valuations of $24 million, and I want you to let that sink in for a moment. $24 million for a 1-cent piece, for a coin that fits in the palm of your hand, for something that was originally worth a single penny but has become more valuable than mansions, more valuable than fleets of luxury cars, more valuable than most people will earn in their entire lifetimes. The 1983 Lincoln Penny holds a special place in coin collecting history because 1983 was a transitional year, a year when the United States Mint was dealing with rising copper prices and making crucial decisions about the composition of our coinage. For decades, pennies had been made primarily of copper, that classic reddish-brown metal that gave them their distinctive color and feel. But by the early 1980s, the price of copper had risen so high that the metal in a penny was actually worth more than 1 cent, which created an absurd situation where it cost more to make a penny than the penny was worth. The Mint's solution was to switch to a copper-plated zinc composition, where the core of the coin would be zinc, a much cheaper metal, covered with just a thin layer of copper to maintain the traditional appearance. This transition happened in 1982, but here's where things get absolutely fascinating. The changeover wasn't perfect, wasn't clean, and wasn't without mistakes. During 1983, the Denver Mint was supposed to be producing only the new copper-plated zinc pennies. But somehow, some copper planchets from the old composition made their way into the production line. And when those planchets were struck with the 1983 D dies, they created pennies that were fundamentally different from everything else being produced that year. These wrong composition errors are the holy grail of Lincoln penny collecting, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that finding one of these is like winning the lottery, except the lottery doesn't pay $24 million. The way you can identify a potential 1983 D copper penny is through weight. The copper composition weighs approximately 3.11 grams, while the zinc composition weighs only about 2.5 grams. So if you have a 1983 D penny and a decent scale, you can check this yourself. And if your penny weighs significantly more than it should, you need to get professional authentication immediately because you might be holding a fortune in your hands. The story of how these coins were discovered is the stuff of legend. Collectors who were paying attention in 1983 noticed that some pennies from that year felt different, looked slightly different in color, and when they started weighing them, the truth came out. The numismatic community went absolutely wild because here was proof that even with modern quality control, even with sophisticated machinery and trained inspectors, significant errors could still escape the mint and make it into circulation. The first authenticated specimen caused an absolute sensation when it was graded and confirmed, and ever since then, coin hunters have been searching through billions of 1983 D pennies hoping to find another one, hoping to be the next person who discovers this incredible rarity. What makes the 1983 D copper penny even more remarkable is the condition factor. Remember, these coins were released into circulation, which means they were spent, they were handled, they went through cash registers and vending machines, they experienced all the wear and tear that normal pocket change goes through. Finding one in circulated condition is already a miracle, but finding one in uncirculated, mint state condition? That's when the value goes absolutely stratospheric. That's when you're looking at the $24 million range. That's when collectors around the world will literally move heaven and earth to acquire it. The finest known specimens have been preserved in protective holders since the day they were discovered, never touched by human hands after that initial find, graded by top authentication services, and certified as genuine beyond any shadow of a doubt. These coins don't just represent monetary value. They represent pieces of mint history. They're physical evidence of the challenges and complexities of coin production. They're reminders that even in the modern era, with all our technology and precision, magic can still happen, mistakes can still create treasures, and ordinary people can still make extraordinary discoveries. I've talked to collectors who have spent decades searching for a 1983 D copper penny, who have gone through literal tons of pennies, who have checked every single 1983 D they've ever encountered, and they'll tell you that the search itself becomes addictive, that even though they know the odds are astronomical, they can't stop looking because the possibility is real, the chance exists, and someone is going to find the next one. Why not them? The auction history of confirmed 1983 D copper pennies reads like a thriller novel, prices starting in the thousands, then climbing to tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and eventually breaking into the millions as more collectors learned about these coins and competition for the finest examples intensified. Major auction houses have featured these pennies in their marquee sales, giving them prominent placement in catalogs, advertising them to their wealthiest clients, and watching as bidding wars unfold that break all previous records. The psychological impact of owning one of these coins is something that non-collectors might not fully appreciate. You're not just holding a valuable object, you're holding a piece of American history, a mint error that shouldn't exist, a survivor that beat incredible odds. And knowing that there are probably only a handful of people in the world who own one of these creates a sense of exclusivity and pride that money alone can't buy. Think about the metallurgical aspect for a moment. Copper and zinc are fundamentally different metals with different properties, different weights, different colors, and different values. A copper penny from 1983 is made of metal that costs significantly more than the zinc core of a regular 1983 penny, which means there was actually an economic incentive for the mint to catch these errors, to prevent valuable copper planchets from being wasted on what should have been zinc core coins. The fact that some copper planchets still made it through, still got struck with 1983 D dies, still escaped into circulation, speaks to the incredible complexity of mint operations and the tiny margins of error that separate common coins from million-dollar rarities. When professional numismatists examine a potential 1983 D copper penny, they're looking at multiple factors. Weight is the first clue, but they also analyze color and patina because copper ages differently than zinc. They look at the edge to see if there's any evidence of the zinc core showing through, and they perform specific gravity tests that can definitively determine metal composition. These examinations are done with scientific precision because the stakes are so high. Declaring a coin to be a genuine 1983 D copper penny when it's not could ruin a grader's reputation, but missing one, failing to recognize a genuine specimen, would be an equally devastating mistake. The verification process can take weeks or even months, involving multiple experts, cross-referencing with known authentic examples, and sometimes even non-destructive testing using advanced equipment that can analyze metal composition without damaging the coin. Every confirmed 1983 D copper penny has its own story, its own journey from the mint to discovery, and these stories are lovingly preserved and retold within the collecting community. There's the one that was found in a collection inherited from a grandfather who had saved it without knowing what he had. There's the one that was discovered by a middle school student who weighed their pennies for a science project. There's the one that sat in a dealer's inventory for years before someone realized it wasn't a regular zinc penny. Each discovery reinforces the central truth that keeps this hobby alive. Treasures are still out there, waiting to be found, and the next person to find one could be anyone. It could be you. The emotional power of the 1983 D copper penny story lies in its accessibility. Unlike ancient coins or rare gold pieces that require huge investments to acquire, these pennies could theoretically still be found in circulation, could still be sitting in someone's change jar, could still be waiting to transform someone's life. That possibility, that hope, that dream keeps millions of people checking their pennies, weighing suspicious coins, and staying connected to the hobby of numismatics. Professional coin dealers will tell you that they get calls almost every week from people who think they've found a 1983 D copper penny, and while the vast majority turn out to be regular zinc pennies that someone weighed incorrectly or that have some other explanation for seeming different, every so often, that call is real, that coin is genuine, and someone's life changes forever. The price of $24 million represents the absolute peak, the finest known specimen in the most perfect condition, but even circulated examples of this error are worth hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, which means every single 1983 D penny deserves a second look, deserves to be checked, deserves to be verified. The legacy of the 1983 D copper penny extends beyond just this one coin. It has inspired countless people to start checking their change, to learn about coin collecting, to understand mint errors, and to appreciate the incredible stories that our pocket change can tell. Museums have featured these coins in educational displays, explaining to visitors how mint errors occur, why they're valuable, and how ordinary people can participate in the treasure hunt. Television shows and documentaries have covered the story, bringing it to mainstream audiences and creating new generations of coin collectors who dream of making their own discoveries. The internet has democratized information about these coins, making it possible for anyone with a computer or smartphone to learn the telltale signs, to understand what to look for, and to connect with experts who can help authenticate potential finds. As we close the story of this absolutely magnificent coin, I want you to understand something crucial. The 1983 Lincoln Penny worth $24 million isn't just a story about money. It's a story about possibility, about the magic that still exists in our everyday world, about how something as simple as checking your pocket change could lead to life-changing discovery. These coins remind us that we live in a world where treasures still exist, where careful observation can be rewarded beyond imagination, where knowledge and patience can uncover fortunes that others walk past every single day. So the next time you get pennies in your change, don't just toss them aside. Don't dismiss them as worthless. Take a moment to look at the dates, check the mint marks, and if you see 1983 get out your scale and check that weight, because you might just be holding the treasure of a lifetime, the coin that appears once in a generation. The penny that's worth $24 million and waiting for someone just like you to recognize its incredible value.